Tanking. It's the NBA's dirty open secret. Every year, half the league stops trying. The fans and the media rage. And it isn't hard to see why. Games get uncompetitive, players don't play, many nights don't even resemble NBA basketball. But today, I want to look at this from another angle. What if ending tanking just kills hope for half the association? We're going to follow some numbers and look at the unintended consequences. Let's break it down. Tanking is when an NBA team intentionally deprioritizes winning in order to improve its draft odds. This can be done in the back half of the year, but many times is an organizational decision in the offseason or trade deadline. To be clear, tanking is an organizational decision. The players aren't actually intentionally losing, but the deck is heavily stacked against them actually winning. The NBA draft positions are awarded via a lottery. From 1990 to 2018, the top pick odds were heavily skewed to the worst team. Since 2019, the three worst teams have equal odds, a reform meant to deter tanking. But that hasn't changed the calculus. The worse you are, the better chance you have at a top pick. Tanking is a rational decision. It is based on incentives. It is based on the league structure. And perhaps surprisingly, it is because of the game of basketball itself. How? Well, unlike other team sports, basketball is a game of stars. There are only 5 players per team. Stars can play over 75% of the game. They can touch the ball nearly every play, otherwise make an outsized contribution to the defensive end of the game. There are many scoring opportunities, far more than other sports such as football, American and European, and baseball. So, over the long run, skill is more likely to win out. There's no easy analytical way to show this, but win shares, a basketball metric estimating how many wins a star contributes to, suggests that star players can account for over 25% of wins for a particular team. Here's a list of all NBA MVPs from 2016 to 2024, showing the outsized impact Nikola Jokic and Russell Westbrook have on their teams. So it's not just basketball which lacks this variance, it's the league. The goal for NBA teams is to win the title. That requires not only performing well enough over 82 games to make the postseason, but then winning 4 separate best-of-7 series, where the first team to 4 wins that series. You couldn't build a better system to reduce variance. Variance, who cares? It's simple. Less variance means more reliance on talent, less need for luck. At the end of the day, you can't fluke your way to an NBA title, chemistry, tactics, plain old luck. Well, that only gets you so far, and most of the time, you're just going to be left short. So if you can't fluke your way into an NBA title, guess what? If you are truly serious about winning, you have to acquire stars. I didn't make this video to tell you stars are important. That's obvious. But it is important in framing the conversation. How do NBA teams acquire these star players? Well, there's 3 parts. First, the draft, where a team can get young talent on cheap, controllable contracts. Second, free agency, where you sign established players. And third, trades, where you exchange assets, players, and picks. There are 2 parts to the draft that drive the decision to tank. First is how teams acquire all NBA players. These are players that have been deemed one of the 15 best players in a particular season. It's not a perfect metric, but it is a good proxy for the true needle movers in the NBA in any given year. Pause here if you want to take a guess of how many players selected to all NBA teams in a specific season were drafted. This does include draft day trades by that team in the last 40 years. 67.4%. That's right. 67.4% of all NBA players have been drafted onto their teams or traded to that team on draft night. This isn't just small market versus large market either. Teams of all market sizes disproportionately acquire all NBA players from the draft. Here's a graph breaking down the acquisition of all NBA players by market from 1985 to 2024. The results, well, they jump off the page. Small markets have much less success acquiring star players in free agency or the draft compared to larger and mid-market teams. Again, there's no perfect definition of market, but I've done my best to categorize each team into large, mid, or small, such that there's 10 in each category. And this is consistent almost every year, even to this current day. Take a look. Okay, so now we've established the draft is king in acquiring stars. Well, where can we find them in the draft? 56.6%. That's the number of them that are picked in the top 5. That's right. We all knew that the earlier pick, the higher chance you are to land a star, but what we don't necessarily appreciate is that that relationship is exponential. The odds dramatically decrease after the top 5 in terms of the likelihood of landing a star player. So, what do those two things mean together? First, star players. You acquire them through the draft. And second, it's not just the draft that you acquire them, it's in the top 5 picks. So if you want a star player, well, the best option is to pick in the top 5 of any given draft. And what ties that all together is that the draft, unlike other player acquisition avenues, is that it is somewhat guaranteed if you lose enough games. You have some level of control over the pick you get. Free agency, no, not even the Lakers, even though it sometimes feels that way. Trades, they require leverage, well, unless you're the Lakers again. But this is exactly why teams chase losses. Now let's talk free agency. If teams can no longer draft stars, they have to chase them in free agency. That means, well, first, prices go up. More bidders equals more money. Second, small markets lose because free agents still gravitate towards glamour franchises. Third, middle class bloats. Teams that can't get stars might overpay for role players, locking themselves into mediocre rosters. Mediocre rosters that have no chance to achieve anything meaningful. We risk creating a league where more wealthier or attractive teams consolidate talent and everyone else fights for scraps. Eliminating tanking also changes how teams trade. The value of already established stars goes up. If you can't rely on drafting a superstar, you need to either sign or trade for one. That drives up the cost. Suddenly, to land a star, you're giving up more and more picks and more good players. That means worse teams and lower chance of acquiring other players to pair with that star. That's less good players teaming up. Now imagine we fix tanking. Bad teams unguaranteed a shot at top talent, or even a top 5 pick. But if you're a small market with no star and no free agent pool, and you can't draft high, what happens to your franchise? How do you sign the free agents that don't want to come? Draft the All-NBA players who go before you pick? Trade for a star and convince them to stay? How do you meaningfully get to the point where you can compete? Tanking, flawed as it is damn ugly as it can be, gives bottom tier teams and small markets a path out. Remove that, and you risk locking them to permanent irrelevance. And with the game and the league being structured towards eliminating luck and variance, there's little success to look forward to. Mediocrity rises. Without the option of bottoming out, teams will do what they can to be competitive. But there's only so many stars, so many players that move the needle. Good teams create stories, create drama, not the mediocre ones. And third, ratings drop because the fans don't ultimately believe their team can someday win it all. Why watch? Let's not shy away from the truth here. Tanking is ugly. It does undermine competition. And quite honestly, despite this video, it is a stain on the game. But maybe, just maybe, it's a necessary evil. Otherwise, small market teams will have even less of a chance to succeed. Fans will have even less of a reason to care. And that just means a worse product for all of us. What do you think? Should the NBA accept tanking for what it is? Or should we overhaul the system entirely? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks.